The biggest fake in history of mankind is the history of mankind, ancient Greece. Bear in mind that history has always been written by the winners. This is what the British Prime Minister Benjamin Disraeli observed. All great events have been distorted, most of the important causes concealed, and went on to say that if the history of England is ever written by one who has the knowledge and the courage, the world will be astonished. Ancient Greece is supposed to be the birthplace of Western civilization. It is a blend of two distinct periods, mythical and classical. In mythical Greece, the central figures of Greek mythology were the 12 gods that lived on Mount Olympus: Zeus, Hera, Poseidon, Demeter, Ares, Hermes, Hephaestus, Aphrodite, Athena, Apollo, Hestia, Hermetis, and Hades, who lived in the underworld. They seem to be a lot of superhuman perverts led by Zeus, who resembles the Christian image of God. Up to the mid-800s, the Trojan War was just a good story, like Robin Hood and King Arthur. The original account is from the Iliad by Homer. The first name author in history. Even more remarkable was the fact that he wrote it all, on the account of the fact that he was supposed to be blind. Remember now, that is supposed to have happened more than 3,000 years ago. This is the oldest copy of the Iliad, Homer's account of the Trojan War. As you can see, it's old, but it's not that old. It appears in the 15th century and has no provenance, which means nobody knows where it came from. This is how images of Helen of Troy beauty have appeared over the last 150 years. If she existed, who knows what she might have really looked like. Even more unbelievable is the concept of the Greeks bearing a gift of wooden horse, hoping that the Trojans would notice it was a bit heavy or burn it on the spot. As plans go, it was stupid. Trojans were useful to early historians. The English monarchy, the Vikings, the Franks, and even Rome itself were all supposed to have been founded by defeated Trojans. Not bad for a bunch of stupid losers. Following the wooden horse business, the gods seem to desert them, and we have a nice, convenient period which historians call a Dark Age, which lasts about 500 years, and then we are back with classical Greece. We are pretty much dealing with the Athenians here. Naked young men, toga-wearing women, and old beard philosophers who lived around column temples. They seem to sit around all day and work out how civilization should be, the meaning of life, and the best way to live it. They were the first civilization to have democracy, which has worked out in same way in order for them to still have slaves, which enabled them to sit around all day, so no change there. The stars of the show here are Plato, who told us about Atlantis, his teacher Socrates, and whose star pupil was Aristotle, who all taught us to think about civilization. Entertainment was provided by Aesop, who wrote fables which became the script of US TV show, where at the end of the show lessons are learned about the characters in the show or yourself. Again, here's the oldest surviving work of Plato, like Homer's stuff, old, but not that old. Pythagoras and Archimedes were good at sums, even more amazing since they didn't have numbers and writing materials were in short supply. This is Heinrich Schliemann. Unfortunately, he is the father of archaeology. If he's the father, then he was an abusive one. In a good light, he was a ruthless opportunist businessman. In a bad light, he was a compulsive liar and psychopath. As early as 1822, many people have suggested that the present site at Hisarlik in Turkey maybe could be Troy. In 1868, Schliemann jumped in one of the trenches that have been dug by Englishman Frank Calvert over the previous 7 years and announced that the world that he had found was Troy. What in fact Schliemann created was Troyland. The Turkish government must love him. Hisarlik is a United Nations World Heritage Site. Every year thousands of tourists flock to this site. It costs nothing to run. There's no moving parts on a wooden horse. So what Schliemann did for Turkey, he did next for Greece. He helped create Parthenon land. This is Parthenon in Athens. It appears as you will expect it to find it, 3,000 plus years old, looking like an enormous 3D jigsaw puzzle. You imagine that experienced, learned archaeologists brushed and examined every little piece. In this aerial view, we see what is left of the classical complex, and our imagination fill in the blank spots for us. We can imagine Plato and Socrates sitting around debating the meaning of life. You have to bear in mind that the Parthenon doesn't look like it's in ruins because it's just old. We've had battles here. That is why the good-looking statues are in the British Museum, labeled as the Elgin marbles rather than in the walls of the Parthenon. This is what Parthenon looked like in 1805. It doesn't quite have the same look, does it? This image from 1821 shows the Parthenon to be quite a built-up area. As you can see from these images from 1850 and 1862, the tower, which is obviously not classical, however, the brickwork seems to be the same as the foundation walls. Here you can see the beginning of the cleanup process, with masses of rubble being slung over the side. At this point, the tower is still there. So when tourists came to look at the site, they have to use their imagination to recreate the complex. The Greek government got what they wanted, a tourist industry.